So your trauma is your competitive advantage. Good morning, beautiful souls. Welcome to Soft Girl Era, the sacred space where strong Black women unlearn survival, rediscover softness, and reclaim the joy, rest, and freedom they deserve without guilt, without apology, and without explanation. I'm your host, LeAnne Dolce, pronounced Dolce, like sweet softness whispered in French. And I am your guide from burnout to boundaries, from doing to being, from strong to soft, and loving every second of it. Today, I want to share something with you that came from a conversation I had recently with Kesha Williams, a woman whose story will shake you, heal you, and remind you that your past is not your prison, it is your power. Kesha is a caregiving business owner, a mother, a survivor of foster care, exploitation, and instability. And she is living proof that you can rise from trauma and build a legacy rooted in love, boundaries, and purpose. Her impact on this world is undeniable because she is creating safety for people who have been overlooked, just like she once was. And what she shared with me during our interview has the power to shift how you see your own story, your own wounds, and your own worth. So let me ask you something that might feel uncomfortable at first. What if the very thing you've been hiding, the part of your story you think disqualifies you, is actually the blueprint for the business, the boundary, or the legacy you're meant to build? What if your trauma, when healed, is not a liability, but an asset? What if the thing that nearly broke you is the exact thing that makes you unbreakable in your purpose? I know that sounds wild. We've been taught to bury our pain, to move past it quickly, to never let anyone see the cracks. We've been told that professionalism means pretending we came from nowhere, that we have no scars, no history, no messiness. We've been conditioned to believe that our trauma makes us less valuable, less credible, less deserving of success. But Kesha's story and the stories of so many Black women like her tell us something radically different. They tell us that survival is not something to be ashamed of, it is something to be honored, healed, and then transformed into purpose. Let me take you into Kesha's world for a moment. Kesha grew up in foster care. She experienced instability that most of us can't even imagine. She was exploited at a young age by someone she thought was a friend. She was labeled and she was underestimated. She was told in ways both spoken and unspoken that she wouldn't amount to much. But here's what they didn't know: Kesha was paying attention. She was learning. She was building discernment in the dark. And when she finally stepped into her power, she didn't just survive, she created. She built a caregiving business that serves the most vulnerable people in her community: the elderly, the overlooked, the ones who need someone to see them with dignity and compassion. And she did it not in spite of her past, but because of it. That's the first thing I want you to take away from this conversation. Your story is strategy, not shame. The things you survived: trauma, instability, exploitation, neglect, those experiences gave you something that no business school, no corporate training, no mentor could ever teach you. They gave you the ability to see what others miss. They gave you empathy that cuts through surface level interactions. They gave you boundaries that protect not just you, but everyone you serve. When you stop running from your story and start mining it for wisdom, you unlock a level of clarity that most people will never have. Now, I want to talk about something that doesn't get said enough in entrepreneurship or where leadership circles, especially not in spaces where Black women gather. We need to talk about nervous system safe success. We've been sold this idea that success requires hustle, grind, sleepless nights, and constant motion. We've been told that rest is lazy, that boundaries are selfish, that if you're not exhausted, you're not working hard enough. And for Black women, especially those of us who come from trauma, This narrative is dangerous because what it really does is keep us in survival mode forever. It keeps us reacting instead of responding. It keeps us performing strength instead of actually feeling the safe. Kesha taught me something powerful during our conversation. She said that building her business wasn't just about making money or creating jobs. It was about creating a life where she didn't have to keep reenacting chaos to prove she was strong. It was about designing something that protected her peace, honored her boundaries, and created stability for her children. That's what I mean by nervous system safe success. It's success that doesn't cost you your health, your joy, or your sanity. It's success that allows you to breathe. And here's the thing, healing is not separate from your business strategy. Healing is your business strategy. Therapy, coaching, spiritual work, nervous system regulation, these are not luxuries. They are not things you do after you make it. They are the foundation that allows you to make it in the first place. Because unhealed trauma will show up in how you hire, how you negotiate, how you set prices, how you handle conflict, and how you show up for your clients. If you're still operating from a place of fear, scarcity, or people pleasing, your business will reflect that. But when you do the work to heal, when you learn to regulate your nervous system and trust yourself, your business becomes a reflection of your worth, not your wounds. Let me give you an example. There's a Black woman named Minda Harts who spent years in corporate fundraising, navigating predominantly white spaces where she was constantly the only one. She experienced microaggressions, exclusion, and isolation. She questioned her value. She wondered if she belonged. She grew up in a working class family and didn't have access to elite networks. She pushed herself through college and into corporate fundraising. But once inside, she found that getting in the door did not equal belonging or safety. Over time, the emotional toll of racism and exclusion became unbearable. But instead of staying silent, she started documenting her experiences and the experiences of other Black women. She turned her pain into research, into content, into a movement. She left her corporate job and founded the Memo LLC, a career development company focused on women of color. She wrote a best selling book called The Memo: What Women of Color Need to Know to Secure a Seat at the Table. And now her work is used by major corporations and universities to reshape how they approach race, gender, and career development. Minda didn't hide her trauma. She healed it, named it, and used it to create a business that validates and empowers thousands of Black women. That's what happens when you stop treating your story like a secret and start treating it like a strategy. Here's another example. Dr. Thema Bryant is a clinical psychologist, an ordained minister, and the president of the American Psychological Association. Her work focuses on healing trauma in Black communities and integrating spirituality, culture, and mental health. Dr. Bryant is a preacher's kid and a survivor of trauma herself, including experiences tied to sexism and racism. Her journey involved reconciling her faith with psychological science and recognizing that her pain and her people's pain could become the foundation of her calling. She could have separated her pain from her profession, but she didn't. She allowed her story to inform how she shows up for her clients and her community. She uses media, podcasts, sermons, and workshops to normalize therapy and healing for Black people. She's helped shift the narrative in our communities from just be strong to get support and heal. And she's done all of this while holding one of the most prestigious leadership positions in psychology. Dr. Bryant is proof that healing work can coexist with high professional achievement in leadership. She didn't wait until she was healed to start leading. She led while she was healing, and that made her leadership more powerful, more authentic, and more transformative. And then there's the story of Black women in caregiving who are turning their lived experiences into legacy businesses. There's a Black woman named Cynthia G. Hardy who founded a home care agency using entrepreneurship to create stability, serve vulnerable populations, and build a legacy for her family. Like so many Black women in caregiving, Cynthia started as a caregiver herself, either in her own family or in low wage care roles. She saw neglect in the system, she saw how people were treated when they were vulnerable. And instead of staying in survival mode, she chose to create an agency that reflects her values and protects both clients and staff. She built a mission driven model that centers dignity, safety, and culturally sensitive care. She invested in training and leadership development to professionalize caregiving and create stable jobs for other women of color. And now her agency is recognized for quality and compassion. She's expanded access to dignified in home care in communities that are often underserved or ignored. And she's modeled for her children and her community that you can turn a heart for care into a viable business and a lasting legacy. These women, Minda, Dr. Thema, Cynthia, and Kesha, they all have something in common. They didn't wait for permission to heal. They didn't wait for someone to validate their pain. They didn't wait until they felt perfect or polished or put together. They started where they were with what they had, and they built something meaningful from the very experiences that were meant to break them. So here's the second thing I want you to remember: healing is a growth plan, not a side project. If you're serious about building a business, leading a team, or creating a legacy, you have to be just as serious about your emotional health, your mental health, and your nervous system, because the version of you that's still carrying unhealed trauma is not the version of you that's going to build the thing you're dreaming of. That version of you is going to self sabotage, overwork, underprice, people please, and burn out. But the version of you that's doing the healing work, that's the version that's going to set boundaries, make aligned decisions, attract the right clients, and build something sustainable. And here's the third thing I want you to hold on to: you are allowed to build for safety, not just survival. You don't have to keep reenacting chaos to prove you're strong. You don't have to stay in environments that drain you, relationships that deplete you, or business models that exhaust you. You can design a life and a business that protect your peace, honor your boundaries, and create stability for your children and your community. Legacy is not only about money, it's also about modeling emotional safety, self worth, and healthy decision making. It's about showing the people who come after you that they don't have to choose between success and sanity. They can have both. Kesha Williams is doing that right now. She's building a caregiving business that serves people with dignity. She's raising her children in a home where they see their mother setting boundaries, protecting her peace, and building something meaningful. She's healing while she's leading. And that's what makes her story so powerful, because she's not waiting until she's perfect. She's doing the work in real time, and she's letting that work inform everything she builds. So here's what I need you to hear: your trauma is not a disqualifier. When it's healed, it's an asset. Your story is not something to be ashamed of, it's something to be honored, healed, and transformed into purpose. And you don't have to keep surviving. You're allowed to build for safety, for softness, for joy, and for peace. Which part of your story have you been hiding because it feels too messy? And how might that very part be the blueprint for the business, boundary, or legacy you're meant to build? I want you to stop right now and ask yourself, what wound am I still carrying that I've never given myself permission to heal? What part of my past am I pretending doesn't exist because I'm afraid it will make me look weak, unprofessional, or unqualified? And what would happen if I stopped hiding that part of myself and started using it as fuel for my purpose? This week, take one small action to honor that truth. Write it down, share it with a therapist or a trusted friend. Map out one way you could turn that lived experience into a service, a boundary, or a system that protects your peace and creates value for others. Stop waiting for the world to give you permission to be whole. Stop waiting for someone to tell you that your story matters. It does. And the people who need what you've survived are waiting for you to step into your power. Your trauma is your competitive advantage. Use it, heal it, build with it, and watch how everything changes.